There was a house that screamed at night. It wasn't a horror movie or a nightmare, but a real house in a quiet neighborhood. The house looked normal from the outside, but inside it was a different story. The walls were thin and the floors creaked. But the worst part was the screaming. I remember the first time I heard it. I was home for Christmas break from college. It was the night before my paper was due, and I had to write it. As soon as I got home and opened my laptop, I heard it. A blood-curdling scream in the middle of the night. I must have dozed off while writing, because the next thing I knew, the sun was coming up and my paper was due in less than an hour. Needless to say, I didn't get an A on that paper. My family didn't believe me when I told them about the noise. They thought I was just making it up. But then one night they heard it too. The screams were so loud that we could hear them from our rooms. We all ran downstairs, but nobody was there. Then we started hearing footsteps in the attic. We called the police, and they found nothing. That's when my dad decided to put a lock on the attic door. But one day, he came home early, and the attic door was unlocked. He asked us if we'd been up there, but we hadn't. From then on, my dad started keeping a gun by the front door, just in case there was an intruder. One night, we heard screams and footsteps again. This time we were prepared. My dad went to investigate with a baseball bat, and I followed him with a flashlight. He checked under the beds, in the closet, and behind the curtains. Then he opened the attic door. We both froze. There was a figure standing in the corner of the attic. "Who are you?" Dad yelled, taking a step forward. The figure didn't respond. It just stood there, motionless. Dad took another step forward and the figure moved. It shuffled down the stairs and disappeared. Dad and I looked at each other, then at the attic door. We didn't know what to do. We never saw the figure again, but we did find some strange things. In the attic, we found old diaries, a music box, and a rocking horse. The diaries were filled with stories of love, loss, and despair. The music box played a haunting tune, and the rocking horse seemed to move on its own. Then one day, my sister decided to call some paranormal investigators. They came to our house and set up cameras and equipment to try to capture the ghost. One investigator walked up to the rocking horse and asked, "Who are you?" Then suddenly, the horse began to rock. The investigator screamed and fell backward. After the paranormal investigators left, things went back to normal, or so we thought. One night, I was awoken by screams again. I got out of bed and walked to my window. As I looked out into the darkness, I saw a figure standing on the roof. It was the same figure from the attic. I watched in horror as it climbed onto the edge of the roof and jumped. I screamed for my dad, but he didn't hear me. I ran to his room and shook him awake. The figure, it jumped off the roof. I cried. Dad didn't believe me at first, but when he saw the empty space where the figure had been standing, he knew I was telling the truth. We ran to the backyard, but it was too late. The figure was gone. We never saw the figure again, but we did find something strange in the attic. The diary that had been filled with stories of love, loss, and despair was now filled with nothing but screams. The pages were ripped, and the ink was smeared as if someone had been crying. And that's when we learned the house's dark secret. The house wasn't haunted by just any ghost, but by the ghost of a woman who had lived in the house 100 years ago. Her name was Eliza, and she had been driven to insanity by the screaming of her newborn baby. She had written in her diary about how she wished she could scream louder than her baby, so that someone would come and take it away. And so every night she screamed until she died, and her spirit was trapped in the house forever.